All right, I want to kick this off with a question. It sounds so simple, but I promise you it's not. Are you happy?
You know, that's actually kind of a dangerous question to start with.
It is, right? Because when you really think about it, most of us either go, yeah, I guess, and it feels totally hollow, or we say, not really, and then, boom, you instantly feel like you're failing at something.
Absolutely. Because our culture pretty much screams at you that happiness should be the default setting. Like, if you're not feeling happy 24/7, something's wrong with you.
Exactly. So what we're going to dig into today is the idea that this entire way of thinking, how we even frame the question of happiness, isn't just a little off. It might actually be the very thing making us so unhappy.
And the guy who figured this out, he was a philosopher from about, 2,400 years ago.
Aristotle.
And his take on this is, I'm not kidding, the most solid and useful framework I have ever come across for thinking about what a good life actually is.
Okay, so before we jump into Aristotle's fix, let's get really clear on what we're up against. What's this mainstream idea of happiness we're all swimming in?
Well, the dominant model, and it's baked into everything from self-help books to Instagram to every ad you've ever seen, is that happiness is just a feeling. It's a pleasant sensation inside your head. You feel good, you're happy. You feel bad, you're not. That's the whole deal.
So if happiness is a feeling, then the goal, logically, becomes chasing that feeling. Get as much of it as you can for as long as you can.
Exactly. And so we start building our lives around that chase. The next vacation, the next promotion, the next relationship, hitting that fitness goal, buying the house. And look, those things do give you a hit of that feeling. It's real.
For a little while, and then it just fades.
It always fades. And before you know it, you're right back where you started, looking for the next thing to get you that feeling again. Psychologists actually have a name for this. They call it the hedonic treadmill. You're just running and running, putting in all this effort, but you're not actually getting anywhere. Emotionally, you're stuck in the same place.
And that's because feelings, by their very nature, are temporary. All of them. That's the whole point of feelings. Even the absolute best ones, like peak joy, they don't stick around forever. So if your entire definition of a good life is, I need to feel good, well, you're basically signing up for a life of constantly losing. And here's the real kicker. The more you consciously try to be happy, the more it slips through your fingers. Because then you're constantly checking in on it, judging it, trying to perform it for everyone else. There's actual research on this. Scientists will tell one group of people, okay, your job is to try to feel as happy as possible. And they consistently report feeling less happy than the people who weren't given any instructions at all. The chase itself pushes the thing away. So we're caught in this trap. The one thing we all agree is the ultimate goal in life is also the one thing that gets further away the harder we run after it.
And that is exactly what Aristotle saw. He looked at this life of just chasing pleasure, what he called the life of enjoyment, and he basically said, this isn't a good life for a human being. This is a life, and this is a direct quote, fit for cattle.
Whoa, he really said that?
He really did. And look, it sounds harsh, I get it, but he wasn't just being a snob. He was making a really profound diagnosis. We are all optimizing for the wrong thing entirely.
All right, so let's set the stage a bit. Who exactly was Aristotle, and why should we be listening to him on this?
Okay, so we're talking ancient Greece, around 350 BC. Aristotle was a student of the great philosopher Plato, who himself was a student of Socrates. This guy, he basically invented entire fields of study: Western philosophy, biology, ethics, logic, how we analyze literature. He pretty much started it all. The sheer volume of his work is just insane.
The ultimate generalist.
Totally. Oh, and on the side, he was the personal tutor for a kid named Alexander, who you might know as Alexander the Great. And his masterpiece on ethics, which is really just his collected thoughts on how to live a good life, is a book called The Nicomachean Ethics. And it opens with this incredibly bold claim. He says, look, everything we do, every single action is aimed at some kind of good. And the highest good, the thing we are all ultimately aiming for, is happiness.
Okay, so he agrees with us on the goal.
He absolutely agrees on the goal. He just completely changes the definition of the word happiness. And that one change, that's everything. And this brings us to the big word, eudaimonia.
Eudaimonia. Now, it's usually translated into English as happiness, but honestly, that's a terrible translation. Better ways to think of it are flourishing or living well and doing well. A lot of scholars just leave it in the original Greek because there's no single English word that really gets it.
So what's the big difference? Why does it matter so much?
Because when you and I say happiness, we mean a feeling, an internal state. But eudaimonia, it's not a feeling at all. It's an activity. It is something you do, something you become over the entire course of your life.
His formal definition is something like the active exercise of the soul's faculties in conformity with excellence. Okay, let's unpack that a little. For sure. So his big idea is this. Everything in the world has a function, a purpose, a nature. The function of an acorn is to grow into a mighty oak tree. A good acorn is one that does that well. A nice function is to cut. A good knife is one that cuts with excellence. So, what is the unique function of a human being?
And that's the million-dollar question.
That's it. Aristotle says, well, what makes us different from plants and other animals? It's our capacity for reason, for deliberate choice, for thinking things through. So our function as human beings is to live our lives guided by reason and to do that with excellence.
So eudaimonia isn't about feeling good, it's about functioning well as a human?
Exactly. It's the difference between asking, do I feel happy in this moment? And asking, am I becoming the kind of person I am capable of becoming? And for Aristotle, that second question is the only one that truly matters.
So what about feelings then? Is pleasure just bad? Does Aristotle want us to ignore it?
No, not at all. And this is a really important point. He's not saying you should be an emotionless robot. What he's saying is that when you are living with excellence, when you're firing on all cylinders as a human being, pleasure is the natural result. It's a byproduct of a good life, not the goal of it.
Ah, okay. So the pleasure is a consequence of living well. It's not the thing you're supposed to be chasing in the first place.
Precisely. Think about it this way. A truly courageous person isn't someone who is terrified but just grits their teeth and gets through it. A truly courageous person has built the character where acting with courage is their natural state. And yeah, that probably feels pretty good. But that good feeling comes after the fact. It's a result of who they are, not the reason they did it.
All right, so eudaimonia, this idea of human flourishing, sounds amazing. But how do you actually get there? What does Aristotle say we're supposed to do?
So this is where his whole idea of the virtues comes in. And the Greek word here is arete. We translate it as virtue, but that can be misleading. It doesn't mean being morally pure or saintly. It just means excellence, functioning at your absolute peak.
Excellence at what exactly?
At all the things that make us human. Things like courage, honesty, justice, generosity, friendship, and especially what he calls practical wisdom, the ability to see a situation clearly and make a good choice.
And this is where he gets into that famous idea of the middle path, right? The golden mean.
Yep, the doctrine of the mean. So for Aristotle, every single one of these virtues is the perfect balance point between two extremes, or two vices. One is a vice of having too little, and the other is a vice of having too much. So courage is the sweet spot between cowardice on one end and recklessness on the other. Generosity is the mean between being stingy and being wasteful.
So it's not about stamping out our impulses, it's about finding the right calibration.
Exactly. Calibrating. And here's the most important part. Virtues are not a set of rules you memorize. They are habits you build over time. The Greek word he uses is ethos, which is where we get our word ethics. But ethos literally just means habit. He says you become a courageous person by repeatedly doing courageous things. You become a just person by repeatedly acting with justice.
Which sounds almost exactly like what modern psychology and habit science tells us. This isn't just abstract philosophy, it's a very practical guide to changing your own behavior.
100%. Aristotle was there 2,400 years ago. He understood that your character isn't some fixed thing you're born with. It's something you construct, choice by choice, action by action. You don't find yourself, you build yourself.
Okay, so building these habits requires more than just repetition, right? You need to know what the right action is in any given situation.
Exactly. And that brings us to the master virtue, the one that steers all the others. He calls it phronesis, or practical wisdom. It's the ability to see what's really going on in a situation and know the right thing to do. But, and Aristotle is crystal clear on this, you can't develop this wisdom or any of the other virtues by yourself.
Right. This isn't some solo self-improvement quest.
Not even close. For Aristotle, human beings are political animals, which is his way of saying we are fundamentally social creatures. We're built for community. Friendship and being part of a society aren't just nice add-ons to a good life, they are essential ingredients.
In fact, he spends 2 whole books of a Nicomachean ethics just talking about friendship. That's more time than he gives to almost any other single topic.
Wow, 2 whole books out of 10. So that's like 20% of his entire ethical framework is just about friendship?
2 entire books. Because for him, true friendship, not just networking or casual acquaintances, but deep bonds built on admiring each other's character, is one of the absolute highest expressions of a flourishing life. You can't do it alone, full stop.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. What's the big takeaway?
For someone listening right now, how does all of this actually change how they should think about their own life? I think the fundamental shift is this. Stop asking, am I happy? It's the wrong question. It's like taking a constant weather report of your feelings. Instead, start asking, am I living in a way that is excellent? Am I using my best human capacities? And then, what habits, what relationships, what choices would help me do more of that?
So the focus shifts away from optimizing your feelings and toward building your character.
Way less about optimization. Aristotle would have looked at today's life hacking culture and just been baffled. He'd say, you don't become a good person by finding the perfect productivity app. You become a good person by doing good things over and over for a long time with other good people.
Which is definitely slower and a lot harder than just downloading an app. Much slower. But here's the beautiful part, the part I find so reassuring. It's also so much more stable, because eudaimonia doesn't depend on whether you had a good day or a bad day. It's not a fragile feeling that can be shattered by the next piece of bad news. It's who you are, built up over a lifetime. It's about your character, not your mood.
Doesn't he have a line about that, about how you can't really know if someone was happy until their life is over?
He does. He says you can't really call a person happy until they are dead, and you can look back at the entire shape of their life. Now, that sounds kind of grim, but I think what he means is actually really hopeful. A good life isn't found in a single moment of peak joy. It's built, brick by brick, across decades of small choices.
So let's go back to that first question. Are you happy? Maybe let's just throw that question out and try this one on for size instead. Am I becoming who I'm capable of being?
And if the answer is no, or not really, Aristotle's advice isn't go on a shopping spree or figure out a new morning routine. It's just, what would it look like to act a little more excellently right now, today?
Start right there and do it again tomorrow. That's the entire path.
So if this reframed how you think about happiness, even a little bit, let us know in the comments. We actually do read all of them. And if you want to go deeper on this, the Nicomachean Ethics is way more accessible than you'd think. Just start with books 1 and 2. That's where all the big ideas are.
And next time we're going to tackle the Stoics, and Marcus Aurelius in particular. We'll see how his answer to this same question is similar to Aristotle's and where it's radically different. It's a fantastic contrast.
Awesome. We'll see you for the next one.